Even though this face was new to me, I knew that voice. It was a sound like ecstasy rose petals, dipped in cyanide, beautiful and lethal. The last time I heard that voice I had been a young man with a promising military career. I had been on war exercises in Syria when I had, quite literally, stumbled over Magdalene's undoing link, half buried in the sands, in a particularly desolate part of the desert. Fascinated by its intricate design, I had spent hours studying it, pawing over its fine detail, marveling at how its indeterminate amount of time in the desert sands had not managed to mar its perfection when it suddenly and inexplicably began to move of its own volition. I remember my fascination as it seemed to unfold like a flower before its petals began to spin gracefully and rearrange themselves whilst playing the most beautiful tune I had ever heard, one which I have never been able to remember a single note of since that night. I remember the petals, closing again to reveal the box, the flickering red light that lit the black smoke that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, and the fear as the torn and shredded figure crawled from the light before raising itself up with a regal bearing that belied its physical agony. I remember the way the chains, wires, and nails that held open its myriad of gaping wounds glittered in the hellish light, how its moans of ecstasy and giggles of mad pleasure had subsided as it grew close to my frozen form, and in its beautiful voice it had made me its offer and struck with me a deal for my soul. It had sensed in me a skill I did not know I possessed. I was to be the new Lemarchand and create boxes anew for this beast and its brethren so that they might sow their ecstasies amongst mankind again. My reward would be power, wealth beyond imagining, and a place amongst their ranks when the end time came. As it spoke to me that night, I knew it believed itself to be bestowing great honors. I also knew, with a crystalline clarity I had never experienced before, that if I survived that night, I would devote my life to the downfall of this demon and all its siblings. Now, in the innocuous setting of a motorway cafe on a cold winter's night, a moment I hoped would never come had arrived. You failed us. You betrayed us. We had such pleasures to give you, and yet you turned from our gifts and tried to destroy us. Surely you must realize by now that we cannot be undone. Ours is the world and the sky, and the souls of the creatures that swarm are but playthings for our amusement. You could have been one with us, tasted our delights, felt the rapture of our agonies. Why would you turn your back on such a wondrous gift? I remember that as it spoke, my mind was a turmoil of ridiculous musings. Was I to die here in a motorway service station beneath the strip lights, surrounded by half-empty cups of cold tea? I remember noticing how the other people in the room did not seem to notice that one of Leviathan's servants was amongst them, possessing the body of this fragile young woman. Indeed, they seemed to me to be moving with incredible slowness, as if space-time itself was under the influence of the obscenity sitting across from me. Perhaps it was. Never before had I even heard rumor of such a thing as now sat before me, the possessing of a human host. Unheard of. Ridiculous. I managed to regain some control over my tongue and managed to rasp a question. How? Not much of a question. My intellect was working at a much reduced capacity at this point, but it seemed to understand. I required a means to seek you out, and you know that my means are restricted by Lemarchand's configurations. Again she smiled the unnaturally wide, tearing smile, and new blood flowed. This beast of burden gave me succor. She is the animal on which I ride forth to seek you out, but you instead have come to me, and I am grateful. You may not sit at my side, but I am forgiving and will give you a taste of my ecstasies before you depart the mortal world. At my feet my bag began to glow as Seraphim made her displeasure known. Up until this moment I had known that Seraphim was special amongst my constructs, but I had never realized by just how much. All the boxes that had come before had been results of meticulous planning and reverse engineering of Lemarchand configurations, months in the planning and months in execution. Seraphim had come to me in a dream. I had awoken with every detail clear in my mind. A box of such immense complexity that it was beyond my understanding even as I built her. Her parts moved in more dimensions than just 3 or 4. In fact, I was left with a dizzying impression that infinite dimensions turned and twisted with each movement of the box in our world. That what we saw as a box was not just the tip of the iceberg, but the tip of infinite universes. Every soul that had ever existed in all of those universes sang as each part of the box turned, and reality was unmade and recreated at her whim. The bloody smile of the Cenobite seemed to fade and the pus-filled eyes betrayed confusion. What is? The bleeding smile returned. One of your pretty constructs. You must know that they have no real power. The only real power is that given by Leviathan and fear. Fear is enemy to many but friend to us. Fear makes the swarm do our bidding. Fear gives us our rightful place in creation. Fear is, now and forever, servant to us. As are you. Unreality came to an end. I cannot write here with any clarity what happened next, because I don't really understand what happened next. I will write what I remember. Light. Brighter than 1,000 suns, but without heat. Blinding yet I could see. In its painless glare I saw something I had not thought possible. Across from me the bleeding smile was replaced by a great gaping hole like a chasm as the yellow pupilless eyes stared at something behind me. Something I sensed of infinite grace, compassion and power. I felt consumed by a howling storm that could destroy me in an instant but felt nothing. A sound unlike any ever heard by mortal ears screamed in the silence and left no echoes or pain in its wake. Peace flowed like blood from a vein, from the dizzying occurrence, pulsing and full the promise of life and happiness to come. Then it was gone. Across from me, a beautiful woman in filthy clothes asked me where she was, inquired if she knew me. I smiled shakily and in a voice that cracked slightly despite my best efforts, told her that I just came in for a coffee.